Welcome to the Bourbon Doctors. Today we got a special episode for all of you. Typically a question that we get asked a lot is,
what bourbon should I bring to a party, buy for a friend, give to somebody for a special occasion, etc., etc.? I run into this all the time.
I run into it at the liquor store.
Yeah, me too.
You run into people and they're looking and people are trying to help them, and so you give them a hand. I said it depends on a few things. Number one, how well do you know them? How much money you got in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
And again, the friend, the occasion, all those things kind of come in, and knowing your audience.
Knowing your audience. Is your friend a bourbon drinker? Is he not a bourbon drinker? Do they like whiskey? Do they dabble in whiskey? There are lots of things to consider, but we just simplified things for today's episode, and we said, we'll give you three choices: a bourbon for $25, a bourbon for $50, and a bourbon for $100.
So under 25, under 50, under 100.
Yeah.
So you remember when I said like your $25 friend and your 50?
Yes.
You don't really have that. But
I've got $25 friends. Listen,
and then you got $100 friends. I'm a $100 friend.
Yeah, you might be a
Maybe.
$100.
All right,
yeah.
let's go. So shall we start? So you get invited and you think, man, I only got $25. What's going to be a good bourbon? This person, they may know it, they may not, but this is going to come across as a good selection.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
I mean, the $25 off, there are a ton of good bourbons out for a reasonable price. The one I chose is Old Forrester 100 proof.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, thank you. It's I think a great bourbon for the under $25 mark. Old Forrester has a ton of great products, kind of all along the price spectrum. But really, for me, it's a great bourbon. It's easy to sip. It's 100 proof. It's my go-to for $25.
All right, I broke it down into when I thought about this. I thought $25. The first thing I said is can you get it? And the second thing is you can for sure get it. Like I said, okay, if you can get it, Buffalo Trace. I've seen it. Keep it up here, man. Keep up the hump.
You are fine. We'll put them down.
Yeah, we'll just keep them in front. So, $23.99 for this bottle. If you can get it, great. I've seen it at some local places, but it's not 100% available. So I said, look, if you can't, my choice, if you can't get it, because you can always get that.
You can always get Maker's Mark. And
$24.99. Generally, sometimes more. This is the 750 ml. You're gonna get it for that.
I agree. That's a great choice. It's a readily available bourbon. A lot of people that's their kind of go-to. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I don't think you can go wrong there.
Makes great drinks too.
The Buffalo Trace products are really getting, at least in our parts of the country, difficult to find. And what we're seeing also is that the Buffalo Trace products are starting to get their prices jacked up a little bit. The last time I found Buffalo Trace, it was like $30. A little disappointing. I think it's a great bourbon. If you can find it for $25, I think that's a great buy. And I have to admit, the reason I didn't select that as my go-to is because it's, one, harder to find, and two,
you got a great choice there.
It moved out of my price range.
That's a great choice.
So our $50.
I like all these.
Yeah.
All right, hit it. $50. Now you got a little extra money. It's a better friend. It's Christmas.
Bigger occasion, whatever it is.
Bigger occasion, whatever it may be. And you want to say, hey, let's impress them a little more. You want me to start?
You go start.
And you remember how I did it. I said, if you can get it and if you can't. But I don't want to, okay. If you can get it.
If you can get it.
If you can get it, this is what I do.
Let's put our $25 bourbons aside.
Oh, you want to get rid of mine?
Well, yeah. Move them out of the way.
E.H. Taylor. Couple things that it's going to impress people because it comes in a neat package. It looks good. You got your neat packaging. You bring that in. So if you can get it, E.H. Taylor small batch. This runs about $35.40.
That's a great bourbon. It's another one. Buffalo Trace product, again, harder to find, and I've started to see those prices get jacked up. So
this has become one of my favorites now. If you can't get that, you can usually almost always find this. Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Love it.
So
Great bourbon.
I have to admit, you just took my bourbon.
Stole your thunder?
You stole my thunder for my $50
Stole
choice.
your thunder.
That is a fantastic bourbon for
Here,
the
I'll
price.
put it over on your side now.
Sounds great.
Because I can get this. I have it at my house.
This has really been my go-to recently if I'm looking to just have something to sip on at the house. I will say you do have to know your audience a little bit because it's a higher proof bourbon.
What
Gives
is it,
you a little bit more of a
117?
hug. It is, I believe, 117. But, I mean, for a higher proof bourbon, it's full of flavor. It's got a nice caramel sweetness to it. It is really one of my favorite bourbons in
fantastic.
the $50 price range.
Yeah, what is 40 to 45 usually?
At least where we live, yeah.
About $45. Yeah. Great choices. Now we go into high rolling territory, man.
$100 bourbon.
High rollers.
That better be a good friend for $100.
That's your best friend on New Year's Eve, man.
And I'll say, like, under $100 really opens up to all kinds of possibilities. There are a ton of wonderful bourbons under $100.
But you know what I also found is that 25 to 50 range. That's a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot of good stuff. I mean,
You know?
it's hard to single it down to just one bourbon or one bottle.
I mean,
which
I was
is why I
thinking
guess you didn't
Russell's
really
Reserve.
single it down to.
I didn't. I said
single.
if you can get it, if not, but okay, depends on what you got at the store and where you're at.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is true. Should we go for our $100 picks?
Woodford's, yeah.
All right.
Do you want to start? You can start.
My $100 pick. Jefferson's Ocean.
Which voyage?
I have Voyage 20 here. It's what I'm sipping on right now. Usually you can get it anywhere from 60 to 100. The prices for Oceans are really all over the place.
Give me some.
And
You're having some. I should have
yeah,
some. Right?
and I think it's a wonderful bourbon. And the reason I picked it as my $100 bottle, even if you find it for less, that's great, is because of the story, right? This is one of those bottles. It's got an interesting story. Hey, it's been on a voyage around the world. It crosses the equator, I don't know, something like 10 times.
How do you know that's true, though?
You don't.
Did you ride along with that? Were you like a stowaway on the ship?
If I was a stowaway, there wouldn't be any bourbon left when we got back to port.
That's true. But you weren't a stowaway.
No, I was not. But
So you're taking their word for it.
I'm taking their word for it. I also take their word for the fact that, like, okay, being on the ocean changes the chemical composition of the bourbon. They ran it through a mass spectrometer, which, if you guys don't know, it's basically a machine that breaks down the chemical composition of these, of whatever it's analyzing. And they analyzed Oceans versus a regular Jefferson's and found that, yeah, there were differences. That seawater, that salt air, it did something to it. And so again, it's a great bourbon. I love to drink it, but also I love the story.
All right.
So that's my $100
And that's
bourbon.
true. I mean, I think that is a point. Like, if you're going to a friend's place, and you get them something, it is nice if you got a story.
It's a nice
good
thing.
story.
Yeah, it's a good story.
I got my if you can get it, if you can't. Okay?
Yeah.
And if you can get it, and I'm going to pull them both down.
Chad Buss, make the rules up as we go along.
Well, that's a good rule, I think. Okay, if you can get it, right here. $65.99, I think it retails for. $70. Oh, wow. If you can get it.
If you can get it.
That. That's got a great story. It's got the horse. It's got everything. It's got the most iconic bottle. In fact, I don't have it on tonight.
But it does have one of the most iconic bottles in bourbon.
If you can't, you can. I don't have a store I've not found this at. Is Booker's. Booker No. Grandson of Jim Beam. And he named his finest bourbon after him. To me, and again, it comes in a nice package. You get a little package with it. It's got a neat story. It's the flagship, not the flagship, but one of the primo bourbons out of Beam, and you're with the Beam team, you know. Yeah. So I think that's a great choice right there. And you're gonna find that anywhere for about $80.
Yeah, and I have to say that's another one. We do have similar bourbon tastes. that was certainly in the running for my best buy under $100. There's something about that peanutty Jim Beam flavor that is just fantastic in that bottle. It comes in the cool collector case, whatever it is. It's just a fantastic bottle. It's one of the first time I got Booker's was as a gift, and I tell you, that bottle was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have had a few, and it is. I've gotten some as gifts, and it holds a special place. I want to go on to one other thing, and it's a know your audience item.
Fair.
Okay, and so know your audience, I think, is key, because this recently happened, and I know Albert helped with this, because you can get regional, I'd call them regional bourbons, that are really good. Sometimes they're not, but sometimes they are really good. Recently, I had a gift given to me, and it was because they had input and they knew me. You know, this is about a $80, $90 bottle, the Garrison brothers.
Depends on where you're buying it.
But you have to have knowledge of who you're getting it for and that they're going to like it, because the Texas bourbons, this bourbon in particular, has a very nutty taste. They use a pecan yeast in there, and I don't know if they do it Garrison Brothers. I knew they do it, Firestone and Robertson, where they make the TX bourbon. I just had some of this last night along with their straight bourbon. This is the small batch. I got a bottle straight upstairs, and I just was like, wow, this is really good. And nutty flavor, but if you know, but it's not going to be for everyone. So if you know them, like I got friends that have like that, the Cedar Ridge?
Yeah,
out of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
And they're from Iowa.
Yeah.
And that's their thing. And so if you get invited, hey, maybe that's a thought, but that's where it comes to know your audience. But if you don't, if you're just looking for what we talked about previously, you can't go wrong with any of the things we already just told you.
No.
You really can't.
These are some fantastic bourbons. All right, that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Bourbon Doctors. Thanks for watching. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and leave us comments about what are your favorite bourbons for $25, $50, or $100.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of our choices, and stay safe, be happy.
Remember, bourbon is for drinking.
Cheers.